Hey everybody, Dustin Thompson, Sierra Club Delaware Chapter Director here again for another video today. I promised that I was going to crack into those rate cases that are before the Public Service Commission. Again, those cases aren't likely to be finalized until later this year, but it's alarming to know that Delmarva Power actually can put these rates into effect at any time, even if the PSC doesn't want them to go forward. And this is in the statute as it exists right now. They can put those rates into effect for a certain amount of time, and then if the PSC comes back and says, oh, we're not going to do that particular rate increase, and then they have to give us a refund, and there's a negotiation around that. But that's not what I'm going to talk about today. I want to break down and make sure folks know what Jamison Tweedy, our public advocate, is talking about when he says that the press release about this rate increase is misleading because they are trying to put into our base rate for distribution something called the Distribution System Improvement Charge, also known as DSIC. So this was a charge that essentially allows Delmarva to make necessary repairs and improvements to the distribution system for reliability and safety. Think about it like if there's a storm or something and they have to invest in the system to repair the storm. They can do that without having to go to the PSC and say, hey, we need to repair this thing or fix this thing for safety and reliability. And then that goes into this charge, which is on everybody's electric bill, until such time that they absorb the charges into the rate. Now, they can only go up to 7.5% of their overall distribution charges under this DSIC charge. So it's essentially a capped charge, which is important because we want to make sure that while we get those repairs done for safety and reliability, we're doing them as cost effectively as possible. And so having a cap on what DP&L can put into that charge in terms of the total amount they can bill there is important. In this rate filing that DP&L put forward, they are trying to shift what has been captured in the DSIC line item on our bills into our base rate, which gets them, the return on equity, and gets them more assurance that those costs are going to be recovered, and it certainly helps their shareholders. But here's something else important that it does that hasn't been mentioned yet. It empties the bucket. And so once the bucket hits 7.5%, DP&L can't put any more in that bucket, and they have to go to the PSC for a rate case. If the PSC approves it, once they empty that bucket, they can refill it again. And so what they're doing is emptying the bucket into our rates, into the distribution rates, so that they can refill the bucket. Now, they say that they're at 7.05% of 7.5%. So they're saying, hey, the bucket's almost full, so we got to empty it out. But if they empty it out, they can just do it again and fill it back up and then empty it out and fill it back up again and ever increase the rates, which the whole point of DSIC was to make sure that our rates are more stabilized and that rate cases don't continuously happen over and over again. So this rate design that they put forward in front of the PSC to empty that bucket out is pretty counter to the whole point of DSIC, and it allows them to then refill that bucket and raise our rates without going in front of the PSC again for another rate case. So that's why when the public advocate says, hey, I know they're saying that this charge is already on your bill, and that's true, but by emptying that charge, that bucket, into our base rates, they can now refill that, which is why the public advocate's saying, hey, that should be included in the overall hit that ratepayers are taking, and he's right. Fun fact, hope you learned something. There'll be more on the rate cases coming up as we go forward. Take it easy. Have a good weekend, everybody.